We just had the best August for the Dow since 1984. Maybe we should shut the country down more often. Wall Street operates in a different world than Main Street. Main Street is mired in a deep depression now, along with the effects of the pandemic, and Wall Street seems to be little affected by it. For years Wall Street has almost zero to do with the real economy of the US. Another million filing unemployment claims again this week. And that's called wonderful in Fed's Bizarro world. The Fed will just keep on printing. We are entering the final stages of a debt collapse. This is not a stimulus. It is modern monetary theory in action, helicopter money. And my bet is it's going to be permanent. Well, until they totally debase the dollar. $10 trillion of freshly printed money directly into the pockets of billionaires was not enough. $2 trillion more is on the route. Crumbs to the unemployed and middle class, with at least 3/4 of the freebies going back to corrupt Wall Street, banks, and corporations that already got trillions in the bailout and to bankrupt states and local governments. National debt at least $30 trillion to end 2020. It is the cliff shaped like a V. You can see the bottom of a cliff, it is more like an abyss. Whatever goes up, must come down. It's just a matter of when. The US economy is now 100% virtual. Our currency is next. The dollar index continues to decrease. It fell below 92 earlier today and is now at 92.07. Doesn't look good for the Federal Reserve notes value. I think we need another $10 trillion to the criminal banks. Inflation will destroy the dollar and the economy. The Fed just changed the rules for inflation target calculations. It will no longer focus on keeping a lid on inflation. Inflation is now everywhere. I see it firsthand. Gas, food prices, property tax, health insurance. The true inflation is much higher than the doctored numbers they give out as official. Unlimited Federal Reserve money creation and federal government deficit spending are triggering major domestic inflation. If you have fiat savings and cash, then you are losing 10% a year, and it is speeding up. If you are then locked into that system, your purchasing power based upon that value is falling fast. We need a sound dollar that we can count on and to not be robbed of our savings by the Fed through 0% interest rates. With dollar debasement intensifying, holding physical gold and silver protects the purchasing power of one's assets. Turn those depreciating dollars into gold. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to smash that like button. And as you know, friends, I rely on your donations to keep this channel functional. As you know, it takes a crazy amount of research and time to bring you this content on a daily basis, so I hope you consider helping with whatever donation you can afford. Thank you. All building up to the greatest world market collapse this world has ever experienced. Temporary layoffs will, and are currently being replaced by permanent layoffs. The housing market is doing great due to the 401k early withdrawal penalty being withdrawn and rock-bottom interest rates. The retail market is doing great due to stimulus checks and $600 extra unemployment for staying home, and the belief more stimulus is on the way. The payroll protection scam, plan, and of course, the most important factor, the wealth effect created by all this free Federal Reserve money inflating the markets. All part of the plan. The higher they can secretly drive the markets up, the better their plans will come to fruition. And what is their plan? Taking down the world economies and leaving them totally at the mercy of the international banking system. And they will gladly come to our assistance, but we must first agree to accept their long-desired one world digital currency. Out with the US dollar, and in with the one world currency. But first, they need for us to get into just a little more debt. So they will wait until after the next round of stimulus passes. And by that time, even the Dow Jones will be above 30,000 for the first time ever. The collapse will be gradual at first, then catastrophic. Next year we should start witnessing the true nature of this pandemic plan when all of the markets will collapse. And does anyone notice that even though the Main Street has collapsed, that the media hardly covers this, or creates any sort of panic because of it? But when Wall Street collapses, it is the end of the world. And this is all by design. The collapse of our economy is, for the most part, being kept from the public. When Wall Street collapses, and they collapse all of the markets, then the media will create another pandemic-like panic. And then the world economies will collapse. And this is because of the power the stock markets have over our consciousness. The wealth effect, which keeps people spending like there is nothing wrong, will turn into a poverty effect, and money velocity will collapse. We should start witnessing the first stages this year, and an apocalypse next year. All this is just a conspiracy theory, but it may very well happen. In the meantime, the rich will continue getting richer, and the poor and middle class will continue to get poorer thanks to the Federal Reserve's artificially inflated stock markets. Sugar Daddy Powell is supporting the 1%. All those Federal Reserve purchases of corporate bonds are supported ever larger increases in stock buybacks. We gave $27 trillion to the bankers and Wall Street in 2008, and no, they did not pay us back. They then foreclosed on millions and stole their labor and lives for pennies on the dollar. In March 2020, they got another $18 trillion, i.e., big business, bankers, and Wall Street, no strings attached, and no accountability. And some pissant claims being forced to work from home. If you still have a job and getting the necessary equipment to keep the said job is less important than paying for services? 4 months of $600 a week cost us $25 billion a month, totaling $100 billion over 4 months. We pay $404 plus billion a year on the national debt, not including the new trillions given to the wealthy elite corporations, et al. Meaning, we kept 26 million people from becoming paupers in our own nation for less than it costs us in interest. This country is ruled by the Fed, big banks, and big corporations. The Fed is pumping Bezos and Musk's net worth to absurd levels, killing the free markets, and hyperinflated the US dollar. That monopoly money is great. Until all confidence in the fiat currency is lost. How long can this game go? You just pull $2.3 trillion out of the air on top of all the other stimulus, and it has to go somewhere. Fiat does not exist in and of itself, it lines someone's pocket eventually. The Fed should hang a mission accomplished banner on their building in DC. They have helped the wealthy by sacrificing the US dollar. I think the vast majority of people will feel sick that the top 1% and tech billionaires have all been bailed out again at the expense of the main street. The stock market at all-time highs while people lose their jobs and businesses. Excessive currency production invites the price inflation of goods and services. Your dollar today is worth 50 cents tomorrow. There is no correlation between US stocks and the real economy. It took almost 3 years for markets to bottom out after the tech bubble burst. What goes up must come down. The stock market has become a wealth transfer mechanism. It has nothing to do about investing anymore. Capitalism died in the 80s. When corporate stakeholders make money via the stock market, they write checks to the politicians. So there is a parasitic symbiotic relationship, large corporations and politicians with the Treasury and the Fed as enablers. The politicians, Fed, Treasury only panic when the stock market tanks, not when millions lose their job. The side effect of this in-your-face bottomless corruption is huge income inequality, which leads to the violence we are seeing. The lower class has no more hope for the future. They now can only hope for a societal reset through violence. Meanwhile, the middle class has and continues to be eviscerated and joining the ranks of the lower class. The whole place is now a house of cards on top of a lit powder keg, but politicians and their corporate enablers keep backslapping and congratulating each other on a job well done and laughing about how they've shafted the little guy. This is the result of a society that fundamentally rewards sociopaths. They are now at the top of society and control all the levers. Removing those levers from their hands can't be done peacefully anymore, it is too late. They have too many layers of enablers protecting them. What this means is that whichever way you look at it and whoever ends up being the elected figurehead in the White House, this can only end in extreme chaos and violence. Once you have the reset, it will take another few decades for the sociopaths to rise to the top again and for the cycle to repeat itself again and again and again. There is no solution to a fiat currency system that must grow geometrically in order to continue to make the interest on the past fiat debt payable. If the growth in the fiat currency supply were to slow down, let alone end or worse, reverse, many debts nationally and internationally would default, resulting in worldwide greatest depression. As a result, the promises of future purchasing power held in these various forms of IOUs just vanishes into thin air. The world was set on this path once our money system was disconnected from the limits of the real world, like two tectonic plates building up strain between themselves. This strain energy will be released at some future point in the form of an earthquake. The longer this strain builds, the greater that future energy release will be, and the smaller the random event that kicks it off will be. The realignment will occur via two complementary but opposite forces. The first force will be deflation and default in everything you own or are owed, especially assets that increased in value due to the overexpansion of easy money and other forms of leverage. The second force will be inflation in everything you plan to purchase in the future, with what you incorrectly thought was wealth now largely gone in purchasing power terms. This inflation is largely brought about the government's attempt to retain its sugar daddy status and thus remain in power, i.e., money for the people, and backfill the currency loss of these assets, like pension funds, etc. It's simply an acceleration in the new currency that even now helps to keep bubble asset prices growing, the period of time we find ourselves in now. As always, those that get this new currency first benefit the most at the detriment of the vast majority. The only way to limit your exposure to these wealth destruction forces is to hold your wealth in real things and not IOUs or bubble assets. Real things, like self-sufficiency and easy-to-store things you'll need in the future anyway. Once you have maxed these out, put the rest into physical gold, not to be confused with ETFs, which are legally just another paper IOU. If you want, having a few chips in the casino is not a bad idea, as it's anyone's guess as to how long this Ponzi scheme can go on. Just remember to maintain your ratio of real wealth to casino wealth. In this way, if you say your casino wealth doubles, maintaining that ratio will cause you to sell some of that casino wealth periodically and place it into real wealth. These bubbles can go on a lot longer than you think, and while they are running, they are a great way to build up your real wealth. Real wealth, like physical gold, doesn't grow like casino wealth. It just sits there like seeds unplanted, just waiting for the right time. All good things come to an end, though. The failure of the present monetary system will simply bring about the next one. Over and over again, the next monetary system restores balance with the physical world by utilizing physical gold as its primary reference point for all other things of value, including the new currency. Why physical gold? Because throughout history, it's been produced and yet not consumed, and thus just accumulates. It's also not needed for anything important, like food and energy that are produced in order to be consumed, and thus, gold's price can be entirely arbitrary without affecting the lives of the common man or commerce, like doubling the real price of food, for example. Gold is just a simple counterbalance and reference point within the currency system that enables the flow of real things of value throughout the complex and dynamic supply chain. Of all 92 elements to choose from, gold possesses the best physical representation of the concept of money. This was the Atlantis Report. Please like, share, leave me a comment, subscribe. And please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels. I do upload videos there too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you wholeheartedly to all those of you who have already donated. Stay safe and healthy, friends.